Well, we are now being joined by Sergej Sumlenny, who is defense expert and director of the European Resilience Initiative Center, live from Berlin. Thank you very much for talking to us this evening. Let me begin by asking you this question. We heard the U.S. Secretary of State, Antony Blinken, speaking just a short while ago, saying as long as America exists, we will back Israel, we will deploy the largest aircraft to the Mediterranean, while Netanyahu says that Hamas is equal to the ISIS and must be crushed. No nation should be talking to them, no leader should be talking to them. This essentially leaves no room for de-escalation, something that leaders in the region are talking about. What do you make of America's decision to arrive in Israel for talks and also talk about deployment?
Well, we know that there is a treaty between the U.S. and Israel on bilateral support, and the United States is legally binded to provide Israel with military support in a case of an attack on Israel. And what we have seen recently with this full-scale attack by Hamas on Israel, this attack was unprecedented for decades. There was no such level of attack since decades, since 1973. And the number of that on the Israel side and the scale of violence, people were not just killed. We know that they were brutally killed, they were beheaded, we had seen children being killed, women being raped, bodies having been demonstrated to public, and these murders have been celebrated. So the level of this attack remains actually no choice for the United States being binded by this treaty to provide Israel with all military support they can. Regarding the de-escalation, it is, of course, a question, how can you de-escalate a situation? And having from the side of Hamas even seen the level of attack, the level of violence,
right?
It is those who work with conflicts, they know that you first need to strike back and then try to de-escalate. You cannot de-escalate when one party unconditionally escalates.
Right. But, the larger question of this is coming at the back of the Ukraine war. America, in a sense, is weaponizing every war. Can the West really afford to do this, given that there are Arab nations in this region? This could become a larger regional crisis as well. How do you see this panning out?
I agree. We clearly see a rise of conflicts of unprecedented scale. We see the full-scale war in Ukraine since 15 months, the largest war on European continent since the Second World War. We see now this war between Hamas and Israel, but also in other regions, look at the Balkans. In the Balkans, tensions between Serbia and Kosovo are rising, and Serbia clearly demonstrates its readiness to attack Kosovo, or at least demonstrates its army being gathered on the border of Kosovo. We can also imagine other regions starting to burn, think what will happen when China will try to attack Taiwan or something else happens. Of course, there are limits for the Western resilience, and there are limits of Western response. That was exactly why many experts like me said that the Western reluctancy regarding Ukraine, what the West called controlled escalation, was false. We had to react massively and rapidly on Russia's aggression.
Right.
Now we are facing war on several fronts.
Right, and there are, of course, unverified reports that the Hamas may have freed one mother and two children. The Israeli side has not confirmed this, but do you think that the Hamas is under some sort of pressure now that the Gaza Strip has been completely cut off?
I think, yes, they try to evaluate now how they do further, because the level of their attack was unprecedented, and the reactions must be exactly as that. Because Israel has no choice, no government will survive if they do not respond massively on such an attack. So now Hamas must think, wait, what we do further? How can we get out of this? Because those who raped women, who killed children, will probably not survive. But what about the organization? How can they come to some sort of deal? Before, the strategy of Hamas was to have some sort of a balance between attacks and kidnapping, but also presenting themselves as a party which is ready to negotiate. now Israel doesn't want to negotiate anymore with Hamas, so they need to find the way out. But once again, I could have imagined that Hamas would have attacked Israel and kidnapped a lot of people, try to negotiate further,
Right.
like for release of prisoners, etc., which was standard strategy. But
Right.
after this mass killing, I don't see the room for negotiations.
Right. I do want to briefly ask you, though, and lastly, that will the West put any pressure on Israel to have a humanitarian corridor out of Gaza, because it is becoming a humanitarian crisis for the civilian population there?
I think, yes, I think that is a question, because nobody in the West questions the right of Israel to attack Hamas in the Gaza Strip after what Hamas has done. But of course, everyone is questioning what is happening to civilians, to children, to other like unrelated people. And here the question should be addressed not only to Israel, but also to Egypt. Like Egypt doesn't let Palestinian civilians to exit the Gaza Strip since years. So that is a question, but of course, after that, there is a question: how can you discriminate between civilians and Hamas members? Because of course, any Hamas member can say, "Okay, I am a civilian. I want to exit." Israel is afraid of infiltration from the Gaza Strip.
Right.
It's a complicated question, but I don't know how this question will be solved. We also know what has happened today in Syria, when Israel Air Force bombed Damascus airport and Aleppo airport reportedly. So this story is not over yet. It is just the beginning, I'm afraid.
Right. I'm afraid, as you're pointing out rightly, this is just the beginning, not the end of this war, and there will be more consequences and, of course, more casualties going forward as well. Sergej Sumlenny, thanks very much indeed for joining us this evening.
Thank you so much. Thank you.